All right. What's going on, bros? Good to see you and welcome to the Empire. But let's get back to this. What do you envision as a primary leveling system for Ashes?
Sense that when you are in the game and you're talking about leveling your adventuring class, right, and that's your archetype and your secondary, questing and grinding are the two ways that are primary, right?
I've been ad
Now,
free
of
since I
course, you
subbed.
can
Hopefully, maybe
achieve
you just need to refresh then
experience for your adventuring
days.
class through PvP, through artisanship and professions, through exploration, through raiding, but the primary methods are going to be a bit traditional in questing, story arcs, events, as well as through grinding mobs. And, when I talk a little bit about kind of what that experience entails, my experiences that I've enjoyed in games is where a portion of your level does require you, or at least the adventuring level, to go out and interface with general populations or to find a group and friends and level in a dungeon or in a group setting. I do not personally enjoy when the entirety of a level can be achieved through simply questing, where you move from quest to quest station and you just do that the entire way, and that will level you up to max level. There's a beautiful world out there in Ashes of Creation. And while questing can show you some of that world, there is also an element of that world that is wilderness and explorative, right? Where by going out and grinding and killing general population monsters as part of your leveling process, you are helping lend towards the development of civilization. You're helping bring nodes.
What he's talking about right here, the node system and everything. And these are the reasons I agree and I love that. One of the cool things that they're doing in New World is they've crunched down the leveling system. It's going to be super quick to level fast, get it done. That's fine because I don't really not super invested in New World, right? I just want to mess around for a little bit, and it's just something that we're going to pacify ourselves with for a little bit till we can find something. I don't mind it taking a while to hit max level. What I don't want is a dungeon that I find I can just sit there and grind over and over again because I'm gonna do that if it's that good, right? I want sure yes I want to do all the quests, but then I want to go do some dungeons. Maybe my friends go to sleep because they're not as sweaty. So then I'm gonna go explore. I get explorer bonus, cool. I get experience for hitting rocks and trees, cool. I'm gonna grind some mobs for a little bit, right? Maybe because there's some good drops, or I know I can get an item that I need for a thing that I shouldn't even care about, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Get some experience for that because it takes so much to level, and I'm 2 levels away from being able to go to the next zone, whatever. So I need to find something else to do for a little bit to fill up that time. I like that. I think it's cool. Are you gonna do? Yes, we're gonna do the fresh start on November 2nd, I believe it is. We've got a crew, and if there's people playing on the fresh start, we may have some spots open for people to be able to join. We'll see how long it lasts, how long we play. I have no clue. But we are going to experience the fresh servers of New World, and give it the benefit of the doubt is what we're going to do.
Up. And that unlocks additional quest lines and story arcs and events, right? So there's a little bit of an equilibrium between that in a more traditional sense. All right, question number 10, and this will be the top 10 questions that were voted up. What are some of the biggest challenges at this point of time before releasing Alpha 2? Now, that is a good question. What are some of the biggest challenges? Well, one of the challenges, of course, is going to be the QA process, right? And we have a lot of rapid development at Intrepid Studios. which means that we will test things and iterate on those things fast. And sometimes that can be a really good thing because we get an immediate, hands-on look and feel touch of a particular system or
I'm out of
feature.
energy drinks.
And sometimes that can
we may have
introduce,
to order
that
some.
pace of development can introduce bugs, and it can introduce just a lot of things that need to be kept track of
Unforeseen
as you're
occurrences.
creating, the game. And that can be a tough process to find all those bugs and to make sure we fix those in time for a front-facing or public display of the product. And that's one of the dual-edged swords, the kind of thing of a transparent development process, is we're wanting to get things out there quickly and iterate on those so we can get feedback and iterate on that feedback. And in doing so, sometimes, we can have bugs that are unintended. So that's one difficulty. Another challenge is the sheer scope of the content, right? There's a lot, as I said before, there's a lot of content in Ashes of Creation. And that development,
there's a lot.
Is
so many different
is
things.
a big effort.
I know some things that haven't been talked about a lot that I'm looking forward to are like the caravans. You're going to be able to sign up to defend a caravan or go attack a caravan, right? Of moving resources from place to place. You're going to be able to attack cities as monsters. There's monster tokens they were talking about where you could be the monster and you can level up being the monster as well. And you can defend cities, right? And there's going to be so many things to do. Castles, right? You can take over castles from NPCs, but then people can take your castles, right? And then there's just the general PvP that will exist, and lots of PvP, So many versions of PvP, on not including the dungeons. They've shown raids. They've shown world bosses. So there's going to be a lot of, working on your town, working on your city, working on your house, working on your character, breeding. There's so much stuff that it's going to be overwhelming at first. What do you work on once you start unlocking everything? But they've got to make it all, right? That's a lot of things to work on.
And obviously we have a lot of talented individuals on the team that I've talked about many times in the past. You've seen them. We've talked about with them on live streams. But that is a big effort to create a lot of that content. I would say one other element from probably a technical perspective when we think about big challenges is we have lofty goals when it comes to player density. And being able to have...
That's the, like, golden... I don't know what the proper word is. But the Holy Grail. In every game, even... you go into a city in World of Warcraft. You go into a city in New World. And all the games that came before. Right? You play a war in Ark. And having so many people in one area. And I was there in Alpha, when New World, when they were testing, having a bunch of people in one area. I do think that Unreal Engine 5 lends to that and helping that, but there's some new technologies that need to be created, need to be discovered to make it more than 50, more than 100 and be playable, right? And still be good. And it's not just this game, but every game in existence that's always been an issue. And everyone's taken a stab at it from a different direction or try to deal with it. But there's thousands of players, but only so many can be, in an MMO, but you're only allowed to have a few around you. You know what I mean?
A customized network solution that handles the type of player density we want to achieve. And you guys saw in Alpha 1, as we gave you a preview of that tech and that network capability through the sieges that we've done. And if you haven't seen them before, you can go on to our YouTube and you can take a look at some of the Alpha 1 sieges that we had. And it performed well. It performed very good. You know, a lot of the MMOs that I played in, when you have over 50 people in an area, things don't start, you know, things start to get a little bit choppy.
Yeah, it's a different game.
And I believe in Alpha 1, we had a test with almost 300 people. And I might be off on these numbers a little bit, maybe it was higher than that. But we had a test with about 300 people, and it was smooth. I mean, it was
Were they
smooth.
using
There
spells and
wasn't,
abilities, though?
aside from perhaps some people in their machines and rendering, right? On the network side, it was pretty smooth. The server's FPS was good, and there wasn't rubber banding. You know, of course, we had bugs every now and then that would come up, but during those sieges, it was a pretty good performance. But it's always a challenge because you're creating
300 player sieges.
And
How
so
epic
there's
would
not
that be?
restriction on player movement, right? Anybody can move across the world, and they can move into particular areas. And of course, we have
Or
network
remember-
contingency.
For those that play newer, do you remember the sieges? That was only 50 people. There was maybe, you know, you get 20, 30 people on one point, right? In a game where you have to go defend the point, right? And it was unplayable. If you were like 10 yards out, you could see people move, but if you were on point, nope. I was just swinging, hoping that I was hitting something, right? You were just blindly trying to spam your abilities in hopes that something would affect the enemy or affect your players. And that wasn't even that many people. Supposedly they've fixed it. I haven't played a war in a long time. But you know, that was when the game launched.
Server starts to go above what our intended density benchmark is, that we want to test both as part of Alpha 2 and moving forward. But being able to achieve that high player density is an integral component of what the system's design for Ashes of Creation is. In a castle siege setting, in a caravan setting, in naval battles, and in node sieges, all of those can lend themselves towards having a large portion of player density within a particular area. So that's always a challenge as well. All right. Question number 11, and I apologize. Hopefully this isn't going, too fast for you guys. I want to try to get as many questions as we can within the hour. So question number 11. How is the render distance vision on the sea? And will an item like a spyglass be acquirable in order to get a zoom in? And this is from Maisie0819.
There will be a sea.
So render
there
distance
may be
on
boats.
the sea. The character render distance is going to be similar to
That
what
weren't
the
even
character
there.
render
Yeah.
distance is on
New
land.
World, you would just
So
swing
that's
and
not
you'd
going
know
to
you hit
change on
someone
sea. What,
because you got
however,
like a hit
will be
marker.
available
You could
to
hear
you
the sound
that
of hitting
isn't,
someone.
that isn't,
That's what I would off
that
of.
is going to be much further than the
if I was
character
hitting
distance,
anyone.
is the ship viewable distance. So when you see other ships, depending on the class and size of that ship, you will see them on the horizon at greater distances just from your character's viewport, right? However, when you incorporate apparatuses like spyglasses, which we do have available, and it depends on whether or not the ship has that type of attachment, both one, available to it, but two, equipped to it, because these are interchangeable attachment slots that you can choose to spec your ship out based on the class of vessel you have, what type of attachments it can contain because of its class, and then what you're able to
You get
acquire
different ships
as well.
too. He
Thank
did
you.
play Arcage, right? Arcage, there were a bunch of ships and everything, but on top of everything that we said, you're going to have your own ship, and you're going to be able to allocate that ship based on its type, and it's going to have different abilities. Will there be ship combat too? There's a lot of crap that they're trying to put in this game, I'm telling you.
Those are going to be available to you. And now those will provide you more of a overview radar perspective of the surrounding area around your ship. And the distances of that radar, essentially, will be also predicated on the class of ship and the type of spyglass or type of instrument that you are using. And it is important to note that you have an element of what's above the water, what types of ship are above the water, but also, as we know, we have, as you know, we have aquatic mounts also, which are capable of going under the water. And some of those mounts have abilities that affects ships that you can acquire. And as such, there will be
Torpedo
other
mounts?
types of tools that ships can have in order to
Oh,
detect movement under
that
the
crazy?
water as well.
You have boarding torpedo frickin' mounts, and the amount of mounts. I think they're going a little crazy with the mounts. Okay, I think they, watching Asmongold and shit. They got mount fever. But there's going to be breeding and all sorts of things with the mounts. But the variation, there's going to be water striders. There's going to be underwater mounts. There's going to be, tanky mounts, fast mounts, bunch of gliders, flying mounts, all sorts, and all with a bunch of different. They each get an active ability. Each has uniqueness to it, which is wild. And it's not just the uniqueness is a visual. Okay, it's things that like, oh well, you want this mount for farming if you're farming this, or if you're farming in this area, right? Or you want this mount if you're in the water PvEing. You want this mount if you're in the water PvPing, if you're trying to board an enemy ship, or if you're trying to do something to a ship, slow it down or do something. They're going all in with the depth and breadth in so many aspects. Yeah, if this game is half of what they say, right, and it runs good, it's going to be pretty crazy.
So that's important.